Gunna is back again about 1 year after his post-jail album A Gift and a Curse, which this new album Wunna kind of gives me vibes from that album and also his 2020 album Wunna. Like and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get into this Gunna album review of this new record.
I float like a ghost when I ride. Step on it, they hope I retire.
Gunna keeps pushing this underdog type of narrative he has for himself on this album, and it's kind of mixed with his more traditional style lyrics that you'd predict from Gunna that he would have, you know, the drip and the flexing and the women and just, you know, naming lots of fashion brands and cars and everything. You know what I mean by Gunna type bars and Gunna type beats. That's what this album was. Of course, there was a handful of duds and just kind of basic surface level lyrics, you know, like ballin' like EA, but there's also plenty of moments where he mixed in a ton of great bars as well, like on Collage where he says he got his first roles from Spider, mentioning Thug on that song was really cool to hear. But overall, not like too many big lyrical jumps for Gunna on this project. Definitely a step down, I'd say, and a little bit different from his last album, A Gift and a Curse. I think most importantly with this album, you just kind of gotta feel Gunna's wave, and just his flows are definitely the most important to pay attention to. And I love how much confidence Gunna's been rapping with the last few years. But he was coasting, he was on vibe mode pretty much entirely the entire project. That's why I made that, you know, comparison to Wunna, because it made me give that kind of nostalgic Gunna feel, taking me back to the summer and everything, which is like perfect time for this album to drop because it's May and the weather's getting nicer right now. He also had the line where he says that they pay for their abs. Now, a lot of people said he was talking about Drake. I'm not entirely sure if he was, just because they mentioned that in the Drake beef and everything that's been going on in hip-hop, but it could be a little jab at Drake. I'm not entirely sure. But Gunna also talked, you know, plenty about his own fitness and health and, you know, evolution he's had and transformation he's had in the last couple years on this album. Throughout the 20 tracks, he had hype songs, he had chill songs, R&B, melodic stuff, so he had a fair bit of variation. Not that Gunna has too much range overall, but I do think that he carried his own weight, did his job. He had a solid performance and entertained me on this album for sure, and he actually threw in a fair amount of catchy hooks and catchy songs.
They send a word through the WhatsApp. Hope ain't nobody to cuss at.
So we'll start off with my favorite songs on this project, which honestly there's a long list. It's, you know, competing type of track list. There's not like one huge standout for me, but definitely that 3-track run on the first half of the album with Neck on a Yacht, WhatsApp, Hakuna Matata as well, and which on that song Hakuna Matata was just right off the rip. He was starting with that, such a nasty flow, but overall you just get good energy, catchy energy from those songs. Gotta mention Collage being one of my favorites. It's just really high class type of rap in my opinion. Today I Did Good, The Time, Still Prevail, On One Tonight, all just summer vibes, great feeling tracks from Gunna. Really the worst songs for me, which there wasn't too many, I guess they were just the most boring in the track list, was Treesh and Life's Changing, which those songs aren't even that bad to begin with, so I won't dog them too much, because low-key Gunna went 20 for 20 on this track list, and we'll see how that holds up in future weeks. You know, this is just the first week that this album's here. I would say though that I would have cut a few filler tracks just because Gunna's not like the most diverse, craziest, you know, artist tapping into multiple genres and everything. Not that this album bored me by any means, I just feel like it would have even been a tad better to just get rid of a little bit of repetitiveness in the track list. And what I meant earlier by not that many crazy standouts, while yes I like a lot of the songs on here, I don't think that this album right now has big standouts like a Rodeo Drive, Fuck You Mean, Back to the Moon off of his last project. There's plenty others off there as well, or even if you look back to DS Forever, which is my favorite Gunna album, you have South to West, you have Livin' Wild, Mop, A Lot of Cake, so many different bangers on that track list. I could continue to go on, and I don't know if this album 101 has the highs of my favorite Gunna projects.
M-on-M means on mine. I got the sweat, part of them.
So there's 4 features on this album, and low-key I could have used a couple more to even spice up this track list or even make it better, but as you guys know, like Gunna doesn't really work with too many artists and producers and everything with everything that's gone on in the last couple of years. But starting off with Roddy Ricch, who I honestly haven't heard of in a long time, kind of felt like a return to form for him on this piano beat on the song Let It Breathe. I thought he actually did a good job. And then you have Offset, who kind of slid on Prod of Them. I wouldn't say he carried or anything, but it was cool how they kind of went off each other's flows a bit, and I think this was a solid Offset verse. Like I said, not the craziest thing he's ever rapped before. Definitely a cool collab and definitely fit the track list though. And then you had a couple kind of more R&B melodic cuts from Gunna, where on Dollar Sign he features Normani, who does beautiful background vocals, which I think Gunna and female artists and female R&B artists and singers with Gunna, you know, backing him up actually sounds super beautiful. She just had an outro verse. Low-key I could have gone for more from her. She low-key had the most beautiful feature, but you also had Leon Bridges as well on Clear My Rain. Honestly sounded like Thug a little bit for me, but it was cool how they kind of shared the chorus together, and I liked him kind of switching it up on on those tracks at this point in the album. The features really were good compliments and were good enough to spice up the track list. It left me craving more. I want more collabs from Gunna on his albums, if I'm being honest, just because we know how stacked of a track list he's done before, and he's also done an album completely solo that did just as fine.
I can tell you by the time I fuck me, I'm on the fly.
Honestly, production-wise, nothing too groundbreaking here from Gunna. The biggest notable producer he had with him on here was Turbo, who had a lot of production credits on stuff like WhatsApp. Was a really good return to form, and I'm not really complaining. I just feel like maybe we could have used some other star power in the producer game, or just maybe even have mixed it up a tad, I guess. But the track list is filled with tons of luxurious type piano beats, trap beats, like for instance on the title track, The Time, Collage, and I always like the bright and sunny guitar beats that Gunna brings into play as well, like on Still Prevail or On One Tonight. I don't know if it was horns or organs on the song Trio, but there was a really cool kind of background noise that elevated that song a lot for me. So I'd say he pretty much carried everything instrumentally, and I think that it was solid. It got him by, it did its job, I guess. But the production out of everything I've listed on this review is definitely the least interesting part that I was most excited to cover about this record.
I'm getting neck on the yacht. 100-foot parked at the dock.
Gunna gave us a fresh batch of feel-good tracks. I would put 3 or 4 of his albums in front of this one, although I do think this album is pretty solid overall. But listening to this, last Friday in the listening party, I just actually reminded myself how much fun I had listening to Gunna, and that it reminded me how much I actually liked Gunna's music. I hope on his next album he goes for a theme or a concept or gets into character or something, because I don't want him to recycle his sound too much. I almost feel like he should take a weird experimental leap or take some time off and really just study another genre or something. But as I pop up the tier list here, I'm gonna go ahead and throw Gunna's 101 album in the great category. I think it has solid enough replay value and actually a fair amount of good tracks. It has a good ratio of how many tracks I've been bumping for sure. In the comments down below, let me know your guys' thoughts on this album from Gunna. Thank you guys for watching all the way to the end of my review. Love doing this series on the channel for you guys. I have a Twitter, Instagram, go check me out there. Subscribe to my channels, and I'll catch you guys soon. Peace.